Hey, what's up, cubers? You know what time it is? Hey, look, it's me. They're in the red hat. That's me. I'm drafting. Just filling in for someone who's a little bit running a little bit late, but it's prelim number 3 recap time. And man, we had a good event, as always. These are always good events. Hey, so let's get into it. Let's check out our featured drafter. And up we've got Ricky, who we've seen play on camera many times, and you know what a great technical player he is, and typically has put together these 50 card monstrosities that are all kinds of different colors. In his back, we've got Fallen Shinobi, we've got Vampire Hex Mage, we've got Sensei's Divining Top, we've got Narset Parter, Veil's Subtlety, Chromox, which we have seen him use quite effectively in past drafts as well. It looks like we also have the land, we've got the blue-white manland. I've got the Raging Ravine, which he's also used quite effectively. And yeah, there's probably no like super clear winner in this pack. Sometimes Divine Top could be used quite well. Chromox is probably the most powerful card. Persist and the Archon package, which he's looking at right now, would be pretty great. But we're going to take the Chromox. He's going to stay pretty archetypal agnostic for the time being, and Chromox is going to go into just about any deck that wants to do some acceleration. So yeah, I mean, we've seen Ricky use this card quite well, and let's see how he does with it. So because up we've got Cold Steel Heart, we've got Fire and Ice. So we've got Coalition Relic, Arena of Glory. Go for the throat. There's Force of Negation. It's a super powerful pick. Could be the choice here. We got Questing Beast. I think that's Once Upon a Time. And it's the Green Overlord as well. So yeah, okay. Yeah, we've got Encrypted Command. Yeah, not the strongest pack. I don't think that there's a clear winner. I think you can just that OAD is probably the strongest card. But it looks like Ricky's favoring Overlord. We know he likes to draft a bunch of different colors. You know, I talked to Ricky before this draft when I was asking him if he wanted to be the future drafter for this prelim, and you know why he wound up with these 2/5 color decks back to back. And he said, you know, I feel like the pool of cards in the cube is at such a high power level. I feel like I can win with just about anything. And yeah, I mean, with back-to-back second place finishes, he's certainly proven that he can do that. So looking at this spec, we got Guide of Souls, we got Watery Grave, we've got Chrome Post Seed Shark, Fear of Missing Out, Shadow Spear, looks like a Molten Collapse, and a Triumph, and a Breeding Pool. Man, just kind of 3 pretty tough packs. There's a Malevolent Rumble, which is super versatile. So considering we took like the Overlord and the Chromox, we're still can stay quite open with this. He might favor taking a green card like OAT, or maybe expanding his mana base with the Triumph would all be pretty, or both be pretty great picks. From my perspective here, might favor Malevolent Rumble as that's something that can just do something sort of that. And yeah, Ricky agrees with me. Okay, so this is it. Normally for this draft, I kind of sit behind the feature drafter, and so I can get a bit of an idea as to what they're doing. But for this draft, I had to fill in and do a little drafting myself for one of our guys who was running a bit behind. So this is my first time watching Ricky draft as well. So I don't know if we did take the Malevolent Rumble, and here in the 4th pack of the round, 4th pick, looks like we got Pestermite, we've got Little Teferi, Thoughtseize. That's a powerful pick for that if you wanted to go with like more of a rock kind of start for that. I would say yeah, in my opinion, I think Thoughtseize is probably the strongest pick in the draft. And here we've got the blue-green card that like will ramp you and then get you to dig a little bit on that. I will verify the name of that card for just a second. I remember seeing this card myself because I was kind of steering into blue-green with my first couple of picks. So I was hoping to wheel that. I wonder if Ricky, he did not. He ended up taking Leyline Binding. So, which is, a great removal spell paired with the Overlord of the Hauntwoods, which gives you that everywhere token, which is every basic land type, so that, with those two on the battlefield, Leyline Binding costs 1. Here, looking at this next pack, we got Inti, we got Faithless Loot England. Inti is a question card. Looks like Champion of the Parish, Ponder, Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, and Hangerback Walker. The land in the back might be a Blood Crypt. Looks like Ricky's going to favor Pia and Carolyn Noir. Is that a Blood Crypt? That is a Blood Crypt in the back. Okay, yeah. So these packs are a little tough. We got Pia and Carolyn Noir is the pickup here. So we've got green, white, and red. We're in Naya right now, and there's Overlord of the Boiler Bilges and the Kavu. So, and looks like Galvanic Discharge, EE, and Aether Vial as well. So, yeah, I think there's a couple of good pickups in this for Ricky. He's looking to stick with Naya, the removal spells for that. So he's going to split the difference. He's going to take the removal spell on a stick and grab Overlord of the Boiler Bilges. Quite interesting for what we've got so far. Looks like we've got there is Winota, which goes solid in a Naya shelf. There is the Restoration Angel, which I think he's taking a look at what could be blinked, and both Overlords could absolutely be blinked by the rest of. But it's quite an investment. If you want to go with the blink, I think the Flicker Wisp would probably do a better job at a cheaper cost, and Ricky agrees, and we're sticking with the Naya plan. Yeah, the Flicker Wisp will definitely do work, and it was going to be able to cheat those Overlords into play if you can get both online, just like they do in the modern Blink deck. Looks like we got Leyline Axe, we got Wild Mikado, we've got Incinerate, which would be probably a good pickup for Ricky for the removal spell of what he's playing with here. He's got the Oliphant, which would fix his mana, which might be something that he's kind of would like to do. He's also considering the Elite Spellbinder. Yeah, he's positioned himself well. So I think this is a little bit of a different strategy of what we've seen, and that's perfectly fair. So one way that we can go is like what we saw with Petch draft in the last video, is he was very much on rails. He stuck with the color and he nailed through it. Ricky kind of branched himself out into like thinking, I'm going to take the strongest cards in the pack and I'm going to be able to cast them. That's what he's doing, but he's able to really piece together the plan. So his next pickup was the Everflowing Chalice. Again, we're focusing on mana fixing. We're going to go this 3-color strategy. Let me find what I can do in the colors that I'm comfortable with and see what happens. So he grabbed those first 2 Overlords. We've seen him use Overlords very effectively in the previous prelims, and looks like he's going to stick with it here. And here we've got Raging Ravine and Kolagon's Command that persists slash poor Overlord, so that, but we're going to go with a Raging Ravine. So the Naya plan is coming together, in a pretty emphatic way here. I think that we haven't seen a whole lot of blue come through here, and I think that's probably partway steering his action here. So here it looks like we're going to value some more artifact mana, but there is the witch, the Augur of Autumn. which can fit a plan like this, but it looks like we're going to continue to value the artifact mana, and we're going to choose the Coalition Relic over the Cold Steel Heart. The Coalition Relic will give him a little bit more flexibility as he doesn't have to lock into a color right away, so I can kind of see that, but being a mana more expensive and his 3-drop slot is kind of filling up, Ricky's curve is looking a little bit high. I'm sure he'd be happy to see some mana dorks of any variety. At this point, looks like FOMO is there. It could fit into his plan. I think this wants to value more removal with the Molten Collapse, but he's got no way to cast it right now, aside from off that Everywhere token and his artifact mana. It might be a little bit challenging to branch into a 4th color as he's kind of trying to lock into certainly red-green. He did take the 1 white card in the Leyline Binding. So we're going to go ahead and take the Haywire Might. That could offer some flexibility out of the sideboard probably for him, or, if he could pick up, say, like an Urza Saga, he could get some additional value out of it there. He does have several artifacts now. Most of them are centered around generating mana. So Urza Saga would be, a fine pickup for him. Here, he did wheel Planar Genesis, but he's very far away from blue. So he's going to take a Tali. So his top end is looking, quite fleshed out here. He probably needs to find something more along the lines of, cheaper interaction, removal, something to do on turns 1 and 2. Faithless Looting could be that, but it doesn't really fit his strategy quite yet. He's taking a long look at the Roaring Furnace and Steaming Sauna, and that is a removal spell that he can cast on the Roaring Furnace side, and especially if he has that higher curve. Oh, he wheeled the Kavu. That's perfect. Or wow, great pick 14 for him. The Roaring Furnace says, like, when you unlock the door, this room deals damage equal to the number of cards in your hand, and as his curve is a little bit higher, save for like if he has to jam out that Chrome Locks, but now he has the good turn 2 in the Kavu as well. But if he's stuck with a bunch of these expensive cards in hand, he can leverage that the Roaring Furnace to get something off the board that would kill him otherwise. So that's I think Ricky kind of found his comfort zone in the cube, and I think his his draft is leading him there. So let's jump into pack 2. Looks like we got Jason the Mind Sculptor. We've got Omnath, which he's pretty close to it, but there's Lightning Bolt, which is always a great, strong first pickable card. Jason Mind Sculptor, so that we got Purple Hole as well. There's the Endurance and Settle the Wreckage. Powerful, sort of board wipe effect. Looks like he's choosing between Omnath and Lightning Bolt. We've joked about Omnath, or Ricky and I have joked about Omnath. This is like it's all his decks have seemingly needed in the past, but I don't think that's the pick here. I personally would go for the Lightning Bolt, as he needs like some more efficient removal if he's going to get to the later turns in the game. It's a pretty good pickup. So let's see what he does choose here. We've seen Ricky also leverage board wipes really effectively in the past. So maybe Settle the Wreckage, maybe he's going to value that Settle the Wreckage a little bit higher, but he needs to find more ways to cast white mana aside from the artifact, so he needs the help with the lands. But he is going to take the Lightning Bolt, and I 100% agree that this is the right pick here. It's what I would have chosen in his spot as well. So it's one of these picks that's requires a little bit of discipline and knowledge as to what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve, and he knows that it needs to be a little bit more favoring removal, and Omnath is a very demanding card to cast, and Ricky might be one of the few in a position right now to do that in the cube. So looking at his with this mana base with the mana rocks, but I think he needs a little bit more on the lands front. Looks like we had the Raging Ravine um, to get him into his colors. We've got the Overlord for that sort. We're definitely going to be heavy green here, but I'm sure he'd be happy with, like, say, oh, there's the Urza Saga. And Prismatic Vista, which would also be good. Magda would fit well into his deck. Oh, as would the Arid Mesa. Yeah, I think we have to choose a land here. I think I think we probably would prefer the Arid Mesa, and would love to see that Urza Saga as well. I think you might be able to get Magda to wheel, but yeah, I think the Arid Mesa would probably be the best pick here, as he's getting kind of greedy on the mana side. The Urza Saga could kind of outright win you the game if you've got these, all this artifact mana. If you want to put slots in for that, he does have the Haywire Might and the Chrome Mox that he can get off of the Urza Saga, off the Chapter 3 trigger. But the constructs would be quite large. So it's still, this is pick 2. He could see more fetch lands if he decides to go with the Urza Saga. I think that's might be what he's valuing more, but he's definitely zeroed in on what he wants out of this pack, and I think it's perfectly fair. He is going to take the Urza Saga. That's kind of the balance that you have to strike, and the decisions that you have to make with this. It's like, am I going to develop my mana base to be a bit more robust, or am I going to take the card that I think I'm going to win with? And Ricky decided in that moment that he's going to take the Saga. So looking at this next pack, there's a Llanowar Elf that he would probably use, and there's Escape to the Wilds, which would help refuel his hand once he gets that. Oh, there's a Path to Exile, a super efficient removal spell, but it is white, and he's more red-green right now. But I think he would like to be in that Naya space if he can get there a little bit better. Escape the Wilds would fit in there, but Llanowar Elf would add some acceleration that his deck is definitely going to need. Looks like he's Worm Coil Engine to the front as well. But I think his top end is quite powerful enough. So he's mulling between, looks like, these 4 cards. I think Llanowar Elf would be a pretty good pickup here for him. Well, he's going to take the Worm Coil Engine. Wow, go big or go home. Yeah, maybe he's a little bit more concerned for his mana base, and he's not going to be able to get some of the top end threats that I think could be there. There's a Misty Rainforest. He desperately needs that. There's also Lelia Archmage's Charm, the Abhorrent Oculus, and the Psychic Frog. Woo! This is a good pack for somebody. Lelia would also be a pretty good pick for Ricky as well, but I think that if he wants to cast the cards that he's chosen so far, he's going to need some mana fixing, and with Misty Rainforest being a green-based fetch land, that's something that he's going to, and Ricky sees it too, and he's going to take the Misty Rainforest. So yeah, this is a strong pickup. I know we at this stage in the game, you probably would take, like, fish lands are always going to be strong. Oh, and there is a Temple Garden and Kasali Pride Mage and Sakura Tribe Elder. Okay, so the mana fixing is coming, and he needs to. If he takes that Temple Garden, that's going to turn white on for his deck. He's got it. Okay, so Ricky's mana base is getting a big boost in this, and he's going to solidify himself more in the Naya base. So these are fantastic. Oh wait, no, he's pivoting. He picked it back up, and he's going to put it back down. Maybe he might be favoring the versatility of Sakura Tribe Elder. Um, but I would think with the card that he picked up with that Misty Rainforest, being able to turn Misty into both a green and uh, white mana source could be absolutely huge for him. Yeah, and that's going to turn on the color in his deck as well. So this is the Temple Garden is a great pickup here. All right, moving on to the next pack. Looks like we got a Hollowed Fountain. We've got Bob. We've got Thalia, which is kind of interesting. We've also got 6. Oh, and Zeator's Proving Ground and Jun. So that could help for the fixes mana. That would turn his Misty Rainforest into red mana as well if you were to take the Zeator's Proving Ground. 6 is going to find all kinds of lands for you once it hits the battlefield. It is a really versatile pick. And getting the retrace ability is also huge. Having the ability to cast permanents at a yard. But we're going to take Zeator's Proving Ground. And Ricky's mana base definitely seems to be the focal point of this pack, or yeah, of pack 2 here. So we got Unholy Heat there hanging out on the back, paired beautifully with Lightning Bolt. We got Bitter Reunion, which this doesn't really seem to be the best Bitter Reunion deck. There's Razor Verge Thicket, which is right in the Naya colors, and Showdown of the Skulls to get him more cards in the late game. Typically a top end aggro finisher, but you know, I think he could fit fine in an Naya deck as well. Looks like he's trying to decide whether to develop his mana base further, take the removal spell, or take the Showdown. I think it's important to know like what signals you're seeing here on this side. The lands seem to be flowing quite well. Looks like the red cards also seem to be coming from this angle too, which, you know, could be a bit of a coincidence, but Unholy Heat is a super versatile removal spell, but we're going to focus on the lands still. So, you know, maybe in pack 3 we can start to develop things, you know, as far as like maybe turns 1, 2 in the mid game a bit more. There's Flame Slash, which is another super effective removal spell, Mere Battle Sphere. But I can't imagine him going for any more on the top end. Yeah, we're going to take Flame Slash. So maybe a little bit of makeup for that Unholy Heat. Flame Slash is going to kill a lot of things in the cube, especially when you cast it on time. So here it looks like we've got a couple of effects. I think Settle the Wreckage came back around, which he was eyeing. Right, so there's a Portable Hole, which is a good early removal spell now that we have white unlocked. But it looks like we're going to go for the board wipe option, which will exile all attacking creatures, and you know, essentially you have to exile everything that's attacking you on a turn. There's Magda, which would be a nice little 2-drop for him, and Hero Blade Hold. I don't think he has 4 drops yet, so the hero could fit in. Yeah, sure. So Ricky very mindful about his curve right now. So occupying the 4 slot would be likely either to power out the hero or go for Settle the Wreckage. And looks like in the 5 spot he's considering Escape to the Wilds, which we've seen him use in the past. But Escape to the Wilds is an interesting card. I think it might be a little washed. In my opinion, I think that there could be other options for it. I think it just costing 5 mana is a little much, and we've seen it on camera a couple of times where Ricky just kind of casts Escape to the Wilds and then the game is done, because by the time you cast it, you can't really do anything else with your mana for that turn. So it is like, you know, it's hard to pass up on like what looks to be on the first hand like a 5 mana draw 5, but when you do cast a card like that, you don't affect the board. So you kind of need to leverage your turn to where you need to either hit something super cheap that you can cast off of Escape to the Wilds, or cast it whenever you can hold up, like, say, a Lightning Bolt, or something to ensure that you're not going to die the turn you cast it. you know, super powerful effect, but I think that in today's cube environment, well, albeit either my cube or a more powerful cube like the vintage cube, Escape to the Wild, or there's typically just better things that you could be doing with 5 mana than just casting a spell that is going to do that effect for you. On to the next pack. Looks like we got Embercleave, we've got Marvin, we've got Sir Ginger, the Meal Enter, and Tide Hollow Scholar. Nothing really for Ricky on this one. Sir Ginger is a 2-drop that is an artifact, so that can help fuel the Urza Saga plan. And looks like we've got the Kasali Pride Mage and Sakura Tribe Elder as the choice here. And Ricky's got his cat, man. He's got it all 3 times. He's taking a Pyroclasm with the 14th pick, and looks like Showdown on the Skulls has Wield. Yeah. Nobody uses Kasali Pride Mage quite like Ricky can't. He's going to beat down with that 2-drop and let him know. Okay, so take a look through the deck. I think we're firmly planning, ready for pack number 3. And just a quick check to make sure that I counted right before the cube. And so we got Lightning Helix, so it would fit well in. So playing there's Tribal Flames, which we saw Ricky win with in a pretty devastating fashion in the past. The rest of the pack got a Rex Sage, Smuggler Surprise, Knight of Autumn would be super versatile. So yeah, looks like we're in our colors. We've got Lightning Helix, Knight of Autumn, and Tribal Flames. Ricky's gonna choose the Tribal Flames, and he has got a significant amount of burn. Now we've got the Lightning Bolt, we've got the Tribal Flames, we've got the Overlord of the Boiler Villages, all of which can go face. So we're gonna take a look at Spara's Headquarters, which is the Bant land. Delighted Halfling could provide him with that mana acceleration that he's looking for. I think he's a little light on legend, so it might just be tapping for colorless mana. I don't remember him picking up any legends along with it. Yeah, I don't think it is. Another Seasoned Pyromancer, a pretty versatile card, and could occupy a decent place in this curve if he wants to go a little bit lighter on the artifact mana, which I think he can kind of afford to do so at this point in the junction. Is that Stoneforge Mystic there at the end? It's a little late to be speculating on equipment, but I don't think that we saw its partner, so Stoneforge wouldn't be a bad pickup either. I don't believe. At least we're gonna take Spara's Headquarters. Wow, so we're Ricky's gonna favor additional fixes. Now there's Wrath of God. We're getting all the hits and Vanishing Verse. Oracle of Moldiah. He's sitting across. I think Ricky's sitting across from Oat. If you watch Prelim number 2, Wrath of God was just absolutely destructive in the hands of Ricky, and he's chuckling. I think they're having a little banter, and he takes it. That's awesome. So he flashes the card to Oat, and he's just like, have you run into me, homie? You know I got it. All right, so we got Spara's Headquarters, Wrath of God, and Tribal Flames. That Tribal Flames is a good pickup. I mean, excuse me, the Spara's Headquarters was a good pickup. Well, both cards are good pickups, but the Tribal Flames is going to be a little bit more impactful than it would have been before, unless he gets that Key Everywhere token. But the adding more domain for the domain spell is it's always going to be strong. Yeah, it's good with the Kavu as well. So yes, Bard's Headquarters was definitely a good pick. Um, and now we got the Sunblessed Healer, which is a randomization, but probably not really for there's Tarmogoyf, which could slot in. But the red white Shockland is a good pick up there too. Do it. Uh, yeah, I think Ricky's mana is perfect. I mean, we saw in his I keep alluding back to it because he's building them in the same kind of decks with like the third event in a row, and he really favors these lands highly, and I think that's absolutely correct to do when you're putting together a domain deck like this. It's a necessity, and he's finding the Naya colors, which is his base, and then it looks like he could. I don't think he's looking to splash the other colors per se. Oh wow, Flage! This is a boon for him. Bone Crusher Giant would also be really strong, and Deathrite Shaman. I mean, honestly, if you wanted to accelerate out to that, I'm. And sometimes you get one of these packs where you just wish you could take a handful of cards. Sire of Seven Deaths is a good top end card, but I think that the strongest card here for him as a pickup would be Flage. It's going to fit. It's going to really shore up that 3-drop slot in his curve. It's going to find an additional burn to the that can go to the dome as well. I don't remember if I don't think he got the lightning healers, but it's if he can get any sort of early pressure and he's got the Wrath of God, he's got the Settle the Wreckage. It's like this deck is kind of forming into almost like a Naya control setup, I'm sure, but I don't think that's going to be ideal. I think he's going to want to get some pressure early and then just use those burn spells and go to the face if he can all afford it. But he's got also the flame slash, which can help control the board too. So yeah, this is a pretty interesting, pretty versatile build. It's not like it's not really toolboxy. It's a little bit more linear than I think his other domain decks have been, but it's definitely coming together with a solid plan. Here's Umezawa's Jite if he wants to get a little bit more focused on the ground and combat, and makes me think back to that Stoneforge pick we had earlier. The opportunity. There's Shepson's Cowards as well. He's looking at Phantasmal Image. Always good whenever you have something on your side of the battlefield that you would want to copy, but it's definitely a versatile card on for that. Umezawa's Jite is really probably one of the most powerful equipments in the queue out on the side of Skull Clamp. But you have to be a very combat-centered deck, and I think Ricky's deck is kind of towing the line of kind of mid-range and burn. But okay, so we are going to take the Jite. It might make the deck, it might not. I'm not sure. If it really has a home in here, but we'll see what he decides on. That is a very late Scalding Tarn. Holy smokes. Looks like we also have Knight of the Reliquary, which fits nicely into a Naya build, but yeah, taking a fetch land would be great. And that makes the Spara's Headquarters pick pretty great too, because that turns that the blue side of the Tarn into both green and white mana if he goes for it. He might be thinking that his lands are already in a good enough position, but that is such a powerful fixer that I don't know if any of these other cards would make the deck. He might be able to find a home for Knight of the Reliquary. He's used it quite well, but depending on how many cards are left in the pack, that is definitely a wheelable card. Yeah, and he takes a Scalding Tarn. And that's a big agree for me on that one. Looks like we got Kaito, the Seaver Exarch, the Gilded Goose, which would be a pretty a good pickup here. Mana Confluence would also be a decent pickup in the same, but I think he needs more spells to do. I'm gonna take the Goose and honk, get in the deck. We need some more mana dorks, and that will help you really push out into turn 2 here. Looks like there is the Lightning Helix. So if he wants more burn, he's got it. Yeah, Ricky's removal is looking solid. Or, just melt your face off. So following the Deceiver Archer is a splurge. Ooh, the Stoneforge Mystic Wheels, but he's going to opt for the Seasoned Pyromancer. Maybe he's thinking he needs to fix his hand a little bit, but the fact that the Stoneforge may effectively charm a card would be, it's been a decision. Oracle will die is a good pickup. A Braid can make there. Looks like Vanishing Verse, but he's not really have the black mana to get there with that. So I think either Oracle or a Braid. A Braid might make his deck. It might not. But the fact that we're getting picks this late in colors that we can cast is definitely a good signal that we're in the right thing. That's funny. We've seen so many Splinter Twin cards all be in this last pack, and nobody had time really to speculate on them, because everyone else was probably thinking, as we pass these cards, there's more Braid else that could make his deck too. The other side of combo, if you see it too late, you're not really prepared for it, and you're already in those colors. So Azusa Lost But Seeking is his 14th pick. Again, it's in his colors, so it's always nice to see cards this late, in your last, couple of picks in the drafts be an option for his deck. It means that you found your lane, you carved your niche, or your niche, and then and now you've got a good spot to build. And we're gonna get started here as we're waiting for the last card. I think we can just go ahead and skip ahead on this and see what it is that comes around. And it is a Nettle Cyst. Yeah, I don't think it's going to make Ricky's deck. And I think there's some artifacts into it, but yeah, probably not what he's thinking onto it. That's fine. But no, this was a great draft. So we got kind of an insight on how Ricky thinks and what he values in certain cards. And I think I don't think he forced anything. He just kind of wound up in the space that he's familiar with, and that's fine. I think that he took like a lot of the most powerful cards that came to him, but he definitely had an idea in mind, and that's not where a lot of a lot of domain decks can be a little bit more scatterbrained in the draft process and in composition. It's kind of like where you accidentally end up sometimes, and that's absolutely not the case with Ricky's draft. And those decks that do end up like that, they aren't as successful as the way that Ricky has been on the cube. So let's see what he finally settled on after making his picks. I'm landing out here. So let's take a look at this Naya deck that Ricky put together a little bit closer. The mana base is super strong. He's got more than one Triume to cover all three colors. He's got the Raging Ravine, Shockland, multiple fetches, and the Green-White Fastland. In terms of other mana sources that he's plugged into his deck, it looks like we've got the Chrome Mox and the Everflowing Chalice over in the artifact slot, as well as Gilded Goose as far as his Manadors are concerned, and of course the Overlord of the Hauntwoods. Looking at this removal suite slash interaction, upgrade Tribal Flames, Lightning Bolt and Flame slash Lightning Helix as well. So, he was building his deck very, very concentrated to be able to go face when he needs to go face and go with the rest, deal with anything that happens up on the board. He does have the sweepers. He's going to get his opponent's dead with looks like a little bit of an early game interaction. If he could get that territory Kavu, he's of course got his this Quasali Pride Mage that he tends to favor a bit. Flage, the Overlords, and the lots and lots of 4-drops to give it that, and a strong top end too, including a Tally, Overlord of the Weather Villages, Warm Recoil Engine, it looks like as well, and refuel his hands or smooth out his draws with a Seasoned Pyro and Showdown of the Skulls. It looks like we've got Flage as well, and lots of Grid Blink targets with Flicker Wisp. Oh, Coalition Relic as well. So yeah, Ricky's mana's great. He's going to try and get to that mid game, but by controlling the board with his burn spells and then go over the top just like he did in his previous drafts. But I think we're a little bit more disciplined with our color picks on this time. Yeah, nice job, Ricky. I think this looks like a pretty solid deck. Let's see what he's going to be facing off in his first round, or facing against in his first round. Ricky's going to be facing Bank, who is on a Jund build with some land strategies. And to kind of go over the top, like the first things that we're going to take a look at is like what he's going to be doing in the early game. And he's got a little bit of acceleration in terms of the Delighted Halfling, the Ignoble Hierarch, and the Llanowar Elves. And that's going to get him into his 3-drop slot, which he's got considerable options here to further ramp up in the Agravatum 6 and the Dryad of the Elysian Grove, but he's got the powerful Fable of the Mirror Breaker as well. He also is got some early 2-drops to help kind of find some key pieces or to accelerate himself further in Magda, in Renin 6. Once Upon a Time, he's got Removal and Molten Collapse. Explorer is going to help him ramp up, and what he plans on doing with all this mana is to get to cast Craterhoof Behemoth, which is always a good strategy. And whenever you got a bunch of little dorks on the board, and Court of Calling, looks like he gets some early pressure with Dragon Rage Channeler. He's got a number of non-creature spells to trigger that, and good ways to get Delirium too with the multiple card types, including those fetch lands that he's got as well. This, little peek behind the curtain. I drafted part of this deck. I had a little bit of a different strategy for it, but Bank jumped in halfway through and steered it more towards this type of build, which I think should be all fine. There might be a couple of question marks I have for it, but I think it's got a solid mid-range plan, and whenever you've got a lot of graveyard synergies, like with Light from the Loam, like with 6 and DRC and the fetch lands and stuff, that's going to open up the door for Hogak, which is also sitting on board, which is a strategy, all in itself once you can get him going in the graveyard. So yeah, let's take a look at this match and see how these two decks pair up against one another. Okay, and let's get started off here with game one. Ricky, you've seen play a bunch of times, so you know what his deck's about. We watch him in the draft. Bank. Bank and I have been competitive teammates for a little while now. He's a great Modern player. You find him, around at least the top 8s in any competitive modern tournament that's happening in Bangkok. And here, he's also drafted my cube many times. He traditionally favors ramp strategies in green and blue, but with me partially drafting his deck and him coming into the deck, he settled in on this gen build, but it's very much doing kind of a land strategy, which he feels right at home with. That he prefers in 60 card formats. But the guys are taking a look at their opening hands and are going to, believe, keep both 7 card hands after a long bit of consideration. From a matchup standpoint, these are both mid-range decks, so I think if there is some early removal in Ricky's hand or early interaction to take care of Bank's ramp creatures, I think we can get to the mid game and we should see a bit of a slugfest. Speaking of early removal, I think we can see a lightning bolt in Ricky's hand, and he's got a mountain to hold it up with. On Bank's side, we've got tap 1 for a Stitcher Supplier. So he's looking to get some cards in his graveyard, and nothing super relevant except there is a land in there now. Bank does have Life from the Loam in his deck, so that's having lands in the graveyard is definitely something that he's going to want to do to make the best use of that spell that he can. Looks like we've got a forest, a mountain. So Bank's colors are fixed. Stitcher Supplier going to get in there for 1. We're going to go mountain. Turn 2 into Croxa. Oh, this is a good follow-up from the Stitcher Supplier, because the graveyard requirements for escaping Croxa are already halfway filled up here. So when Croxa enters the battlefield, Ricky has to discard a card from his hand. If it's a land card, then Croxa's gonna nug him for 3. But it looks like he's going to choose to discard the Zealous Conscripts, and Croxa's going to go to the yard. So on turn 3, Ricky's going to just play a Plains and say pass. Looks like we're still holding up the lightning bolt. I think I see one other red card, maybe Tribal Flames in his hand, and a pair of green cards, including the Gilded Goose. So maybe part of that long think that Ricky had was whether or not he was going to be able to find the green mana for his mana base or not. And it doesn't look like he's got that. So we could be looking for either a good target for this Tribal Flames or a green mana. Banksman, on the other hand, is doing great as he's got a Wooded Foothills. He's going to drop to 19 as the Stitcher Supplier got in there on combat. Drop Ricky to 18. So not much of a clock going here for Bank yet on turn 3, but he is going to cast Life from the Loam. That will get back both the swamp that the Stitcher Supplier kicked the yard as well as the fetch land he just sacrificed. And this engine is going. And, Bank's mana is looking even better. So we could be looking at a Croxa as early as, well, no, not quite next turn. Ricky's just going to draw a card and say go. So yeah, I think the lack of green mana is being a bit of a problem, as the Stitcher Supplier is going to get in there for 3, and the Tireless Tracker is going to come down. So Bank is going to, of course, maintain priority through that, and he's going to get the Wooded Foothills down, which will trigger the Tireless Tracker, make that clue token, and now we have a real beater as Bank tries to turn up the clock. But as we know, Ricky's been holding that Lightning Bolt up since turn 1. Lightning Bolt's going to take care of the Tireless Tracker. Bank's not going to have the mana sources to save it, obviously, but he is going to sacrifice the Wooded Foothills to get the land drop so that he does make those extra clue tokens, which in a mid-range matchup, every bit of card advantage is going to kind of put you over the edge onto it. But Ricky hasn't deployed much resources here yet. So he's going to surveil a land to the yard, which, could be an important target for life from the loam. Ricky's going to mind bank that the Untitled Chapter did get lightning bolted. And Ricky's just going to draw go. And I mean, his hand is nice and healthy. He's got 7 cards, but he probably desperately needs more mana. Bank, on the other hand, is mana rich. He does need to find either another source for red or black if he's going to get Crux out of the yard, but he's got a lot of options on what it can do. And here comes the Stitcher Supplier again, and that thing's dealt 4 damage, amazingly, in this game. And yes, Bank is going to escape Crux of being able to safely leave life from the loam in his graveyard if he chooses to go back to go that route and get more lands in his yard. And here comes Cruxa and its ETB. Ricky's going to discard the Gilded Goose, and no additional damage is going to be taken from that. I'm having trouble seeing Ricky's hand. I don't know what he's drawn off of it, but I've got to guess he's got a handful of removal and the green cards. Looks like that Tribal Flames is only going to deal 2 damage, and you don't really want to target the Stitcher Supplier despite having a dealt 4 damage. So he's just going to pass the turn, and this has got to be pretty big feel bad for Ricky as he's stuck on those 3 lands, and Bank continues to generate mana advantage. In Bank's hand, it looks like we're just going right to the beats, and Crocs is going to get another trigger, cause Ricky to discard the Kasali Pride Mage, and of course the team there is going to get in for 7 and drop Ricky to 9. Ricky does have the Lightning Helix, which will take care of the Fauna Shaman and keep his life total back to a little bit more healthy 12. That is still not great. So Ricky found a Plains off the top of his library, and he's going to need an answer for this Croxa. Otherwise, it's going to continue to just decimate his hand and his life total soon. So we're showing a 2-turn clock here. It looks like Bank is going to, and he's just going to say go. Bank's going to flash, or just going to cast Once Upon a Time at the end of Ricky's turn and find 6. This is going to be another value engine, as he's got 2 permanents in the yard as well. So Bank untaps. Going to draw for turn. It looks like he also cracked a clue with the other one. So Bank's hand is healthy. He's got the significant mana advantage. Well, actually, the mana advantage isn't super significant yet because, oh no, it is at 6. I thought it was at 5. Okay. And board advantage. Ricky looks like he's always got a Leyline Binding that he's pulled to the front. So that is an answer for Croxa if he decides to use it. Bank's going to go to combat, and yes, before we get the Crox's attack triggers to get another card out of Ricky's hand, we are going to use the Leyline Binding to take over Atraxa, and the Stitcher Supplier is going to get in for 1 more damage and bring Ricky to 11. Bank's going to deploy 6 here, discard a land, and get back the Fauna Shaman. He is going to be able to cast the Fauna Shaman as well. So this is a huge kind of recovery point to not only maintain the pressure on Ricky's side of the battlefield, but get another piece of utility for bank as well. So like, so that, nope. Okay, so I think there's a bit of mistake here. I think bank is trying to use six's ability to cast Once Upon a Time, but it doesn't work like that. Six only gets is able to cast permanents with its passive retrace ability, not not instants, which what that is. Ricky finally found a misty rainforest. And with that, I think if he so chooses, that could turn on his tribal flames with the Triuminous deck. Where he's going to crack it and fall to 10. I think I also saw Malevolent Rumble in Ricky's hand, which could be another option, but maybe he's just afraid that bank could get too much value, even though there are no permanents on Ricky's set. Yeah, Ricky's just going to crack it for a basic forest here. And I'm going to assume that the Malevolent Rumble is going to come down soon after. Oh, Ricky's actually going to pick it back up and rethink what he's going to get. So yeah, this could be an interesting decision point. He is going to get the Spar's Headquarters. Okay, it does tap for green mana, as well as white and blue. But it's going to turn on the domain side, or it's another, as it's an island as well, it's going to turn on the tribal flames to be a bit more. Oh, but he had Overlord of the Boiler Villages, which is another way to get 6 off the battlefield, as it deals 4 damage to any target once it enters. Bank's going to crack his last clue, keep his hand nice and healthy, and he's threatening to attack for 3 more as is. I did see Quarter Calling in Bank's hand, so I think there's a moment here where Bank would have the opportunity to cord for a bigger creature, but it doesn't seem to be what his game plan is. Instead of drawing for turn, he's going to dredge for Life from the Loam and get that back. There's now a few lands in Bank's graveyard, so it's going to be pretty big. So we're going to quick mana check. He hasn't hit his land drop yet for turn, but he does have a fetch land in hand, and this would allow him to hoard for a 5-drop. I didn't memorize things like, okay, so we're not going to do it yet. We're going to get in for 3 more damage. But I think the magic number for Bank would be 10 mana, because that would allow him to hoard for the Craterhoof Behemoth, which would wrap up this game and get those extra points of damage needed to finish Ricky off. So we're going to go ahead and crack the fetch land here and get a Surveil land in green and black and float 2 mana to cast the Life from the to get the Life from the Loam. So Bank's going to find another land to put into his yard. Life from the Loam is going to get back the full 3 lands and go to the yard. And now Bank's hand has got 3 lands and something else. And his mana count right now is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. With his next land drop that he can hit, we're still 1 mana shy of hoarding for the Craterhoof Behemoth. Ricky, now with his full mana base turn on, is going to start off with a Malevolent Rumble that will yield him, looks like 3 lands and the Everflowing Chalice. Not a great rumble for Ricky, but he does get a very important blocker in uh, in the Eldrazi or the Eldrazi spawn token, and he's going to get another land to develop his mana base. But let's see how green has an option. He does end up finding another forest, and he's going to cast a Hero of Bladehold, which comes down as a 3/4, and his board now stops any further attacks from these two, unless Bank can find a removal spell for it. But Full Grip and Bank Scan, I thought I saw a but with the Magda in hand, this could be game if Bank sees the line, because now the Fauna Shaman is turned online. Yeah, okay. So this could be it. But I think he did have the Molten Collapse in hand. He does have the Molten Collapse in hand if he wants to extend the game any further. But that Overlord of the Boiler Villages on Ricky's side of the table is ticking down as well, and that will cause its own set of problems. So Bank has a couple of things to consider. He can either hold out to be able to cord for the hoof next turn, or he can go for it now while the shields are down. And that's the option. So we're going to discard Magda to the Fauna Shaman. And find the Crater Hoof out of his library. And then I think we're just going to go ahead and hard cast it here. And yeah, so here comes the hard cast. All of Bank's creatures are going to get +3/+3 and trample. And Bank can now attack with the Hoof, which also has haste, as an 8/8 trampler and a 4/4 trampler. So we've got 10 trample damage, and that's not technically game, but Ricky sees the writing on the wall, and that's would probably be it after that, with no more answers to flip things around with things that low with the Crater Hoof on the battlefield. And that's game one. Bank's going to take that up. Now, I think that was, strong play. I don't think like any mistakes were made on either side. I think Ricky just had a hard time locating that green source, and we know Ricky's mana base is good. I think it was just kind of a bit bad beats, but he was able to find some removal for Bank's game plan, and early on, but the ramp strategy, being able to find it, was just it was mana screw versus a deck that's geared towards mana advantage. But here we're already underway with here game two, and it looks like Bank started off with 6 cards. He played Llanowar Elf into Ricky's Lightning Helix, and the elf has been dealt with. Ricky played a Raging Ravine on turn 1, so looks like his mana is nicely fixed, while Bank got a basic mountain off of the Wooded Foothills on his turn 2 into Wrenn 6. Wrenn 6 plus his 1 gets back the Petch land, and looks like Bank's mana will be nicely taken care of as well. So Ricky was in the play, so that land is hanging out there at the back, but it is in Bank's hand. Yep. Okay, so Ricky got up to a nice healthy 23 off the Lightning Helix on his turn 2. That stopped Bank's ramping strategy, but unless Ricky can deal with this Wrenn 6, it looks like Bank's going to hit every single one of his land drops this turn. Or you can play a Coalition Relic. Bank's going to take a read. Let's do it 2. Essentially, it's a mana rock, 3 mana rock, test for any one of any color mana, or he could tap it to put a charge counter on the Coalition Relic. You can use that charge field for any color mana at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase by removing the charge counter from the relic. So it's a really useful artifact here, as it can bank some mana and fix you for it, or just straight up ramp you as far as the colorless mana is concerned, the turn coming down. But it looks like Ricky doesn't need to use it immediately, so we're going to probably take the color/charge counter approach into it. Wooded Foothills is going to get cracked for a forest out of Bank's hand and into Dragon Rage Channeler. And now Bank is going to explore off of the 2 mana that he's got. He's going to Surveil first off of the DRC trigger. And decide exactly what he's looking to either pitch it. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and pitch the Swamp, which is good value for Wrenn and 6. Wrenn and 6 can get that Swamp back if Bank so desires, so he can take any land that he wants. But looks like we're just going to go right back to the Wooded Foothills. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, looks like Wrenn and 6 got the Wooded Foothills back, and the Bank just played it out of his hand. So notice on that. But Ricky is now sitting with 5 mana as he uses the one off the Coalition Relic in order to cast a Bloodbraid Elf, and is immediately going to reveal a Seasoned Pyromancer. Wow, this is a powerful turn-off for Ricky. Bank just double-checking the mana. He used the charge counter off of the Coalition Relic, so Ricky's still showing 2 mana as he can tap the Coalition Relic for colorless mana, and he's got white and or red, but it looks like right now we're just trying to decide exactly what we want to pitch off of the Seasoned Pyro triggers. He can pitch 2 non-land cards if he so chooses, and essentially loots them. He can draw 2 off of it, up to 2 for each non-land card that he does pitch. He's going to get a 1/1 elemental creature token. Seasoned Pyro is just such a powerful effect. Being able to get it for free is absolutely incredible. So it looks like he's going to ditch Tribal Flames and the Haywire Might. And he's going to get Lightning Bolt, and so he's got the Hero Bladehold in his hand too. He is holding up Lightning Bolt off of that Sacred Foundry. Bloodbraid Elf is going to come at Wrenn and 6. Now, Ricky does have 2 elemental tokens on the battlefield for the Seasoned Pyro. We're not forgetting that. I think he's actually asked me at this point to go find them for him. So I'm off finding his correct tokens. Bank's going to let the Bloodbraid Elf hit Wrenn and 6. That's going to leave it wide open to get bolted. So Ricky does take care of that, and he has stopped Fang's mana advantage plan. That he's no longer going to be able to get back that Wooded Foothills whenever he wants. But as a result of the Planeswalker hitting the graveyard, Bank now has Delirium, and the DRC is now online. There's Ricky's elemental tokens. Took me a while to find those, but got it to him eventually. Ricky passes the turn back to Bank, who now has 4 mana, having gotten a Surveil land off of the Wooded Foothills crack at the end of Ricky's turn. DRC has got to attack, and it's going to hit Ricky back down to his very healthy 20. Looks like Bank is about to cast. Maybe he's doing some mental math going on in the tank a little bit before. Okay, so he's just getting the sequencing right as the Fauna Shaman and the Tireless Tracker both hit the board. We do have a clue token, and Banks has maximized his mana, and that's a pretty decent bounce back here. Looks like Banks' quality of creatures is quite strong. But he has a very healthy board. He's thinking pretty hard about the play that he needs to make here, and if he's got any attacks. He's got kind of the one if he wants to trade, and the right off, but Hero of Bladehold is going to hit them, which is quite strong, and it looks like this season Pyro and the Bloodbraid Elf are looking to get busy before that Tireless Tracker can grow off of those Clue Sacrifice tokens. Each one of these does have 2 power, so Bank could make some trades in this situation, but it might not be in his best interest. He's going to need a really wide board, and he's going to need a solution for this Hero of Bladehold. Otherwise, so he ends up taking the damage and falls to 12 off of the 5. So the next attack sequence is going to be very perilous for Bank. He's got to get that off the battlefield. And I think Bank has Molten Collapse in his deck, so now might be the time to get Molten Collapse if he's got it. Otherwise, this game could be a bit in jeopardy. Looks like in his hand we've got Once Upon a Time. Yeah, okay, so he's going to cast Once Upon a Time. Well, I can't get a removal spell, but can hit a Surveil trigger off of DRC, and DRC has to attack. That's not something he can leave to block, as it doesn't want to Summoning Sickness. It's a bit of a trick here. Once OAT can't get, but it can get a creature or a land. So Bank's going to have to go equally as wide. So we're going to take a Bloodstained Mire, which is a black-red fetch land, put the rest in the bottom. That's not what we need here. So looks like the Bloodstained Mire will make a clue token. It might be time to sacrifice at least 1 clue to try and draw that, but looks like the Tireless Tracker is going to get in there, but Ricky's life total is not in any danger whatsoever. Ricky does have that Raging Ravine as well, but Ricky just says, yeah, sure, I'll take the damage. He's going to get a 14, and Bank has 6, but I think Bank is just dead on board. He doesn't have any 1-mana removal spells at instant speed that's going to do it. I think Ricky's just doing the math here. Because as the Hero Bladehold attacks, it's going to create 2 soldiers. The whole team is going to get +1/+0 with Battle Cry. And Ricky also has the Raging Ravine. And he's going to have plenty of mana too. Because it looks like he sacrificed the Misty to get Zeator's Proving Ground. And he'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana if he puts a charge counter on the Coalition Relic, which he will do. And yeah, Ricky's in quite a healthy position here, and Bank has only 2 blockers. So I think we did some not so efficient board state assessment here on Bank's side. It's like Ricky's got a Mounted in hand and 1 other one other card. My Tribal Flames is in Ricky's yard too, but you know, I think it's just a matter of activating the manland and then turning everything sideways. Because just so let's say like the Raging Ravine is going to attack for 5. The everything the Bloodbraid Elf is going to attack for 4. The Seasoned Pyro is going to attack for 3. The soldiers are each going to attack for 2. The elementals are going to attack for 2, and the Hero Bladehold is going to attack for 3. So, you know, it's just Bank's only at 12, so there's no blocks that it's going to save him. I mean, the Raging Ravine is also going to get a counter when it attacks, and yeah, he's not going to have much of a board left. Ricky's still at a very healthy amount of life, so Bank can't threaten him on the crackback. It's just it's game over. Yeah, Bank's going to crunch the numbers, figure out he's dead, and then I think that's going to wrap up game 2 here. Yeah, there we go. And Bank scoops it up finally, and we got a game 3. Okay, so we've got a bit of a concept now of what each of these decks are trying to do. Bank's trying to ramp up in a bit and get substantial cards in his graveyard in order to facilitate Hogek. That's probably one of the most powerful things that he can do. Or he can get up to 7 mana to get the Craterhoof Behemoth. Ricky is going to play a little bit more of a patient game to disrupt Bank's ramp plans by taking out his mana dorks. There's not much that he can do in the graveyard once it gets under control. Ricky did flash the Zillus conscripts, so Bank has to be careful about what each one of these he has on the board. But Bank's going to start off with a great start here, and turn 1, Ignoble Hierarch to facilitate a Jund mana. Ricky doesn't have an answer for that right away, so it is going to get to stick around and ramp him for at least 1 turn, and Bank's going to get the DRC, and his game plan is online. We've got cards in the yard. It looks like a pair of lands and a Brotherhood's End. If he could find the life from the loam, then he can start that strategy of hitting his land drops and facilitating his graveyard. DRC is also going to facilitate smooth out his draws if he can find some on spells, but Abrata is going to take care of Ignoble Hierarch, which is a bit of a blow here for Bank, as that was both ramping him and could get an extra, not an extra point of damage there, but we've got 3 types now in the graveyard, so the DRC is close to hitting that Delirium marker. So both of these little dorks, these little 1/1s, are going to get in for 2, and Ricky will fall to 18. On Ricky's turn 2, he's got a Malevolent Rumble, and looks like he's going to find his favorite land. The Raging Ravine will come into play tapped. He's going to make a Scion, and he's got a bit of ramp going for himself. On Bank's turn 2, he's going to get in the Wrenn and 6. And looks like he drew the Craterhoof Behemoth. He drew the Craterhoof Behemoth for turn. He cast the Wrenn and 6. He's got the Surveil trigger off of the DRC, and he's going to get that force out of the yard and swing in for 2 more. he's left the Wren and 6 exposed here, however. So I think maybe this might not have been a great attack, because if he needs to get Delirium for the DRC, or to get Hogak or Life from the Loam, one of his treasure spells in the yard, getting that extra mill 3 off of the Stitcher supplier when it dies could be beneficial, and it could hang back for a blocker to protect it. Now, as Ricky stands, if he's got nothing else to do, which could be a bit of a stretch, but he could use the Raging Ravine, and he does, to take care of Brennan 6. That is probably not an ideal situation. But with Brennan 6 being a Planeswalker, DRC now has the Delirium it needs to grow, and Ricky's got a real clock that he's looking at on his side of the battlefield. Bank is going to play the Augur of Autumn. Now, this is interesting because Bank has Delirium. The DRC has a 3/3. The to give the Augur of Autumn Coven. Okay, so Ricky took a read of the Augur of Autumn. Let's do it too real quick. It says you may look at the top of your library anytime you have the lands from the top of your library. And if you have Coven, you control 3 or more creatures with different powers. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. This could be a huge card advantage engine for Bank. And with Bank hitting his land drops, he could really start to overwhelm the board once Augur of Autumn since Augur of Autumn is going here. Bank did attack with DRC and the Stitcher supplier. He has the Flame Slash to take care of Augur of Autumn, and he just seems to have all the answers right now as DRC gets Lightning Helix. So Ricky's going to gain the life back off of the Helix and kind of reset this clock that Bank's been working on. Bank's not out of it yet. He still has 5 cards in his hand, and Ricky still doesn't have much of a board presence, but he does have mana, and actually has more mana to spend than Bank does. I can see a Tali hanging out in Ricky's hand, but we're passing back to Bank, and Bank plays 6. Oh, and with that, Bank does have land in his hand. He can use 6's Retrace ability to get DRC back online, and now the clock is back, and Bank has the board position. The Stitcher Supplier got in there for 1 left for damage, and Ricky is down to 14. However, Ricky has a Tali, and both triggered on side of his. Oh man, the beats continue. So off of a Tali, Ricky finds Lightning Bolt on his side of the battlefield and Fable of the Mirror Breaker off of Bank's library. I imagine that Lightning Bolt. Ricky can go. That's perfect to take care of DRC, and now off of that cast, Ricky has a dominating board presence. As the Tali is just going to threaten to block anything that Bank throws at him now, and that's got to be a huge issue for him. Wow, well, the Tali is such a high rolling card. You're getting 2 spells on top of the 7/7 presence that comes in, but what 2 spells? It just shows whenever you can get any sort of these high roll free spell cost cards, and Bank's going to answer with Hogak. All right, so we've got a couple of big boys on the battlefield right now. Hogak, being an 8/8, can stop any attacks from a Tali. So Bank's certainly shored up his position as well. He's keeping Brennan 6 and Noble Hierarch on the battlefield, so he's probably looking to, or will be looking to cast it, and Bank's going to follow up with a tireless trapper. Wow. Okay, so these battlefields are getting huge, and you gotta hand it to Banks' deck. It's super resilient. Ricky's had just a ton of spot removal into it, but he just keeps finding more ways to gain value. It's it's just a deck that manages its resources well and can bounce back seemingly from anything. But obviously, in cube, if you can find these spells like Fallen Shinobi or Atali to where you can steal your opponent's um, spells or cast anything for free, those when you high roll like Ricky just did, it can really alter the effect of the game because these cards can be so powerful. So Ricky's going to cast Escape from the Wilds. Or Escape to the Wilds to get the top 5 of his library. So he's definitely planning ahead for next turn. See what his plan for that would be. So I think the board advantage is still currently with Bang, as Ricky does only have the 2 creatures, the 2/2 and the 7/7 for Tali. So if Bang is going to make a move, he's going to have to do it probably on his next turn. Ricky has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, potentially 7 mana off of the attack trigger, but the transformation for Atali is a real threat at this point in the game. So let's take a look at the front side of Atali. As we saw recast the spells, but looking down, if for 9 colorless and 1 Phyrexian green mana, I mean Ricky can pay 2 life if he's got the resources. He could transform Atali, and it's going to become an 11/11 trample indestructible whenever it deals combat damage to a player. They get that many poison counters, so it can one-shot you if you block with only like a 1 toughness creature, like say that Stitcher Supplier or something like that. So he's got to throw something real in front of Atali if he's going to make it count. But so Ricky's got to create a board position that he can block with, and he does that by casting Sir Ginger off of the Escape to the Wilds, hitting his second land drop here. That Escape to the Wilds also gives him in the form of that Scalding Tarn. This looks like a pretty solid board state to keep Ricky alive, as he does have a fair amount of life at the moment. He's still at 14. Potentially could go to 13 if he decides to crack that land, crack the Tarn, but Sir Ginger could mitigate some of that if he uses his mana to sacrifice Sir Ginger to prop his life total up. If he needs to do that as well. It would net him 2 more life if he decides to do that, because he would have to sacrifice the Scalding Tarn in order to eat the gingerbread man. Okay, so Ricky passes the turn back to Bank. We skipped ahead a little bit because Ricky kind of went into the tank as to what to do with that remaining 2 mana that he's got. But if Bank's going to make a move, he has to do it now. But no matter what, he's going to have to get Atali off the battlefield. In hand, he's got the Craterhoof Behemoth, which he's still a couple of mana shy on. Yeah, but Ricky's endgame is going to involve. Oh, here. Wait, does Bank have the Molten Collapse in his hand? I think he does, but he used his land for the turn to play the Raucous Theater, which comes into play tapped, and he's got no other black source. So he needs to find a black mana, but he used that, and here comes the Alpha Strike. Oh no, what Bank needed to do was to do this, to maybe chump attack or something, to use 6 to find the swamp that he needs to and then use his land drop to play the swamp so he could cast Molten Collapse to get a Tali off the battlefield. And that could have been turned, but instead he goes all out for the kill. He says, math is for blockers. Let's see what you can do. And I don't want to say this was a full punt here, but I think there probably could have been a better way to go about this. Because we know Ricky put together the blockers. We know he's got that extra life at his disposal from Sir Ginger if he decides to use it. But now Ricky's thinking about the block, saying what else could be in Bank's hand that could facilitate this. And it looks like all that's in Bank's hand is that Molten Collapse, Crater Hoof, and the Swamp. Bank needed one more turn, and I think he just kind of shut the door on himself. He's challenging Ricky to find 20 points of damage. Maybe he's confident in that his life total is high enough that the damage can't come, but looking at Rick's mana, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 off the Everflowing Chalice. With this attack, depending on how Ricky ends up blocking, no, regardless, as long as Atali survives, Bank is just dead on board. So, yeah, it looks like Rick can just throw the blocks like this and take no damage, except for, Hogak is attacking as well, so he would take the damage from Hogak, but no additional damage after that. Bank's going to crack a Clue and a Prey, finds a basic mountain that's going to grow the Tireless Tracker, but no Quinins, and all that's left on Bank's side of the battlefield is Hogak. Ricky cracked. No, Ricky did not crack his. I didn't crack his fetch land yet. But Hogak's going to get in there and bring Ricky down to 7. Now he's going to crack the fetch land and still be at a very healthy 6. And yeah, I think Bank just may be dead on board here. Wow. And I don't think you would have had to have been. I mean, maybe Bank was just thinking like, I've got to end this game now, otherwise the Atali transformation is going to get there. So this was just kind of like a last ditch effort, thinking like, I'm dead anyway, I might as well attack all in and hope Ricky makes a mistake or something along those lines. But I think you had to get that, and I think he's just kind of throwing his hands now, trying to figure out, if, or I guess maybe hope that Ricky doesn't see that he could transform Atali, but so many different ways that this could have gone wrong, and Ricky's just kind of checking the different moves he can do. He's got the Chrome Mox as an additional mana source, and it's also it's got the Kavu up there, but I think, I think no way to cut, no way to cut it like this game's over. Like Ricky's even threatening just lethal damage. Um, the uh, the Raging Ravine could get in for 5. Vitali without transforming could get in for 7. So that's 12, 16 damage. She could attack with just normal damage. But it's I think in hand, Ricky's got Showdown on the Skulls, and he's got Zealous Conscript. So he's got a couple of different ways to kill Bank here with damage, or by transforming Itali, or I mean, he could even get real cute and do some things with Zealous Conscripts and the Transform Fable of the Mirror Breaker once. But that's going to take care of round 1. I think both of these decks were pretty interesting, and it was created some fun board states, and looked like an definitely a matchup we haven't seen before here on this channel, so we could see what kind of graveyard land synergy decks can do, and definitely created some good moments. But we've got another round to get to, so let's see what we got. And it wouldn't be a feature match video if we didn't have Pet involved in some way or another. And here we got a blue-white splash black. We got an Esper control build from Pet this time around. And yeah, it looks like we're going to be digging with Preordain, Sleight of Hand, Serum Visions. We've got Factor Fiction. He's found his Cryptic Command. He's got Lorien Reveal, Dig Through Time, and some Super Friends hanging out the top. We got Jace the Mind Sculptor, Teferi Hero Dominaria, and the Wandering Emperor. And the mid game, we've got Vendilion Click, the Brazen Borrower, we got Lingering Souls, and we've got some counter magic in Reprieve, Stern Scolding, Counterspell, Archmage's Charm, the aforementioned Cryptic Command, and a Supreme Verdict to get him through some of the board. Looks, oh no, he's got a little bit of spot removal too, and Prismatic Ending, and the Adventure Site of the Murderous Rider. Yeah, this is about as classic of an Esper control shell as you would see. Oh, there's a Bloodchief's Thirst down there too for more spot removal. Just like the other decks we've seen from Pet in the past, we've got a linear strategy that is going to do it. His mana base looks great too. So I don't think there's much more that you could want out of one of these types of builds. So let's see who he's facing. That's going up against Hunter, and he's on a really streamlined Boros aggro build. Yeah, so we got kind of a classic matchup of control versus aggro. Look at these 1-drops that he's picked up. He's got the Onslaught Prize, he's got the Guide of Souls, he's got the Usher of the Fallen. He's got Ragavan, he's got Kellen. The Monastery Swift Spear. He's got Smuggler's Copter, 2-drop. He's got Chandra for the mid-range. We've got Inti, the Robber of the Rich. We've got Felia. Man, in the 3 spot, Delny. We've got the Skyclave Apparition, Elite Spellbinder, Lurist to bring everything back from the Goblin Rabble Master, Bone Crusher Giant Fury. Wow. Now, this is an aggro deck. And I think maybe for the first time that we've seen in these preliminaries, maybe Pet is not favored in this matchup, because we've got really fast speedy control versus, really fast aggro versus your classic Esper, blue-white control kind of strategy on. Wow, and Hunter's got the Arena of Glory too. Oh, this is a great deck. Yeah, let's get into the matchup. All right, let's get this match underway. We skipped ahead a little bit. Both guys decided they did not like their opening hands, and we're going to go to 6 cards here on both sides. Looks like in Hunter's hand, we've got a really powerful start. See an onslaught, pride. I see a couple of lands, Inti, Felia. Is that a to monastery swift spear? Oh, I don't know. I see an inspiring advantage as well. But yeah, this is a really strong hand. Looks like Pet's going to get us kicked off with a Serum Visions. Of course, both guys are going to blind. It's not open deck list, so neither knows what the other is playing. It is a monastery swift spear and in Hunter's hand. So, I think with these kind of start that Hunter's going to try and get off to, Pet's probably going to identify exactly what's going to happen. I mean, and this is just classic aggro versus control. Hunter's got to run Pet over before he can get to a critical amount of mana. Pet being on the play is going to certainly matter in this matchup, but Hunter's going to start with Onslaught Pride. Really one of the strongest turn 1 plays that you can make in the queue, but we're not going to see that work, as that instantly gets exiled with a prismatic ending on Pet's side of the battlefield. Just really strong start, and Pet's going to follow it up with a sleight of hand to further fix his mana. Back over to Hunter on his side, and we've got an inspiring advantage to come down to fix his mana. It is a pain land, so every time he uses that will cost him some life, and he's going to start off with Inti as his turn 2 draw. Probably not the ideal kind of situation that Hunter wants to get into. He doesn't want to allow Pet to use the spell removal to control the tempo of the game, which I'm not sure if he's got. He's got a counter spell, and he's got a Brazen Borrower in his hand as well. So Hunter is going to need to try and get some damage through here on this turn, as Pet's already at 3 lands. We do know that Pet has a Supreme Verdict in his deck, so I think that's probably going to be one of the cards that he's going to favor when he's digging around for into his library, so that he can firmly put a lock on the game. But if Hunter is going to go 1 threat at a time, it may not matter a whole lot. The Inti is going to connect for 3, and Pet's going to fall to 17. Looks like Hunter pitched Delny on the attack trigger and drew a Bitter Union. So a lot of card dirtling on his side, and he's going to play Kellen. Kellen is a super strong 1-drop out of Foundations. And it looks like he was thinking about countering Kellen there, but he held back on the counterspell and instead is going to opt to Petty Theft Inti to gain a little bit more tempo back. So he might not want to spend his mana, or rather just find a different solution to deal with it. But he really should probably take care of Kellen in this situation. It is a very powerful card, and it has an ability, or, with its level up ability, it also gives Hunter another place to dump his mana in, as opposed to casting spells into his counter magic. So Pet is going to go for a Snapcaster Mage, targeting the Prismatic Ending, and get rid of Kellen. And there is nothing on Hunter's side of the battlefield right now, as Pet hits his land drops into the Flooded Strand. But Hunter does have Failure, and he flashes it in at the end of the turn. So there is the aggro strategy is not dead yet. Hunter pulls in an Arena of Glory on the side of the battlefield. He's got 3 cards in hand. One of them we know is Inti. The other, I believe, is Bitter Union, and the Monastery Swift Spear. Hunter's going to deploy Inti first. I think maybe a line that I might have taken would be to go over the Monastery Swift Spear, cast Bitter Union, and I might have pitched Inti to try and get 2 more different cards. So Hunter's going to attack with Failure and exile Inti and throw Failure into the Snapcaster Mage. That was That was not great. And here comes the Monastery Swift Spear, and he can't take advantage of the haste. I'm not quite sure what happened that turn. That was definitely some missequencing on Hunter's side. I think maybe he thought that Velia was going to get the counter right away. So maybe he just misread Velia and didn't understand when it was going to, because if it was a 3-3, it would have a clear attack in, but that's not the case. And now Pet is able to deploy Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, onto the board and untap 2 lands. And he still has the counter spell in hand. So this game is still not completely out of Hunter's control. Yep. Rubber the Rich gets countered, and I think Hunter has the Bitter Reunion in hand, but he has no card to pitch to it. It still might be worth it to do so, to go ahead and cast a Bitter Reunion to get the prowess trigger to get Teferi off the board. But instead, he's going to opt to hit Teferi for 4 and get a Plains. That's might be a misrepresentation here on Petch side of the battlefield. May take no, it wasn't. So it looks like the Monastery Swift Spear went face, and Inti attacked Teferi for 3. Inti only gets that counter when he cycles. So I guess the play that I thought of beforehand would not have got Teferi off the battlefield, but regardless, Pet ticks up Teferi and casts the Brazen Borrower, and we've got a pretty untenable situation here for Hunter. He does draw a card off the Inspiring Advantage. Inti's going to cycle another card and grow, and I assume that is coming at Teferi. Yeah, and Hunter hits another land. He's just cycling land into land, and he's got a land in hand. It's just not good. But and the Wandering Emperor is going to come down and take care of Inti, save Teferi, and there's just no more pressure left on Hunter's side of the battlefield, and Big Tef and the Emperor are going to high five here for the control deck, and it just seems like the writing's on the wall. If you've ever played a control deck against, or an aggro deck against this, you kind of know. Yeah, Hunter's at 18, but this, if you don't get that early pressure in, and Pet had the spot removal, we had the timely counterspell for the Robber. He was able to Prismatic Ending the Ocelot Pride, and then use the Snapcaster to get back the Prismatic Ending to take care of Kellen, and then that unfortunate attack of Velia into Snappy, and that was all of the spot removal that Pet needed to get to this stage of the game. And Pet decides that the Wanderer has done its job, and here comes the Samurai token, and he's going to be attacking for 5 every turn with Big Tef up as well. It looks like in Pet's hand we've got another land, and maybe that's Tishana's Tidebinder. The card advantage from Big Tef is going to be also insurmountable, and this game is done. It's going to be up to Hunter if he wants to kind of make Pet finish the game or not, which looks to be the case. Here's Lingering Souls, and it flash it back, and now the inevitability is there. Looks like he'll be able to attack for 7, 8, 9, and 9 next turn. He could block on the ground. Hunter's going to draw, looks like, I couldn't quite make out the card, but yeah, he's gonna scoop it up, and that'll be it for game one. It goes to the control deck. Wow. So yeah, don't count Pet out, even though he's got a a bad matchup in the rock paper scissors of all his Magic, but he takes game one. Let's move on to game two. Yikes. My apologies to Hunter and Pet, and to all of you all as well. We had a bit of technical difficulty and lost much of the game two footage here. I didn't lose all of it, but we're gonna have to jump ahead significantly here toward the end of the game, as this was all I was able to salvage. So here's the end of the game, and it's going kind of how you would expect an aggro versus control build to go into. It looks like Hunter has a huge board presence, and Pet is undoubtedly on the back foot here, as Felia can certainly take care of some of the tokens. Looks like at one point in the game, Pet had taken control of a cat token made off of Ocelot Pride. I think he did that with Archmage's Charm after it got big there off of the Guided Souls attack trigger. Not sure what that orange token is. It's probably another cat token. Looks like Felia is going to take care of the big cat, and Pet's going to untap and scoop it up. So, I think that just kind of went as you normally would. Pet's looking for Supreme Verdict, or maybe he was able to cast it and then Hunter was able to rebuild. But he was able to get a lot of pressure early on, and Hunter's going to take game two. We do have a game three, so let's check that out right now. All right, we are going to just jump into game three here, and it looks like we're both on the mulligan yet again. So we're starting up with 6-card hands. Hunter is going to be on the play with Pet, or no, excuse me, Pet's going to be on the play. With Hunter taking game one, and we're going to get things started off here with just a land and a pass into Hunter with a turn one Ragavan. Wow. Okay, not much better start that you can get into a game. He's got both Ragavan and Onslaught right in his deck, so this is super strong. Ragavan's going to get in there, going to exile the Brazen Borrower from the top of Pet's library, and Pet's going to fold to 18. Hunter's also going to get a treasure token. Here we go. Pass that over to him now, and see if he's got a follow-up. Going to sack the treasure and go 2 more for Delny. Wow, that is really going to turn Ragavan's activations on if Pet can't find an answer for it right here. It looks like, yeah, the Brazen Borrower is going to be permanently exiled, of course. And Pet's going to follow up the Lingering Souls. Now that can block Ragavan quite profitably. Unless Hunter has it. I don't think Hunter had much removal at all in his deck. I think he had Stomp the adventure side. The adventure side of the Bone Crusher Giant, but other than that, I don't believe he had much bar going. So Delny and Ragavan are going to get in there. Spirit is, of course, going to jump in front of Ragavan. Ragavan's going to go to the graveyard. Then he's going to get in for 2, and Pet's going to fall to 16. Pet's fellow play is Luris. Well, that's a good way to get Ragavan back. Iffy, when the time comes, but Pet is at a critical 4 mana, and Hunter has only been able to deal 4 damage at this time in the game. So we are here in the mid game, which is where Pet can potentially turn the corner. Hunter still does have 3 cards in his hand, and Pet's able to maybe able to get some value out of that Lingering Souls in the graveyard, but he has no black mana at this time. So Pet's just going to say go. Hunter's going to hit his 4th land drop, which is the Inspiring Vantage. is going to use it right away. Fall to 19 on that for the Guide of Souls. Holy smokes. Into Detective's Phoenix. Now, this is some pressure. I'm thinking in short of the Wandering Emperor is going to get Pet out of this situation right now, or I don't think he has Settle the Wreckage in his deck either. So it looks like in his hand he's got that. Oh, double checking like some of the triggers here that's happening because of Delny. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield and triggers the Guide of Souls, he's going to get 2 triggers off of that. So he's going to gain 2 life and get 2 energy. So that will put Hunter back up to 21. And Hunter will get 2 energy off of that as well. So I think we're just trying to figure out what attacks are at the moment or what he wants to do with that. Or just, I don't know, I think we're just double checking the ruling. Okay, so here comes the energy token and the dice on it, and we are getting in there for some damage. Pet's going to follow it up with a Fact or Fiction, and there's the Wandering Emperor, obviously not being cast this turn, but Hunter's got some thinking to do on this. Looks like we got Sleight of Hand, we got Archmage's Charm, the aforementioned Emperor, and Preordain and Prismatic Ending off of the Fact or Fiction. And Hunter goes to work right away. It looks like he's going to take he's going to separate 1 removal spell. The Emperor is also a removal spell. The Archmage's Charm, a counterspell, and the Sleight of Hand, which is probably one of the weaker cantrips in Pet's deck. I think we're going to go for a reasonable 3-2 split here off the FOF. And I think this looks like pretty good piles. You don't want Pet to get overloaded on spot removal, so I might have done the other way and put the Emperor in with the Prismatic Ending, because the Emperor is going to have more value than the Prismatic Ending along with it, unless I guess maybe Hunter's thinking about that Snapcaster Mage play that happened in game 1, so I don't think I would blame him for that. The Spirit Token's going to jump in front of Loris, and Pet's going to take 4 more off the Phoenix and Delny and fall to 12. And this is exactly the type of pressure that Hunter's wanting to see. He just hopes he doesn't run into Supreme Verdict or anything of that like. And I don't think Pet has it in hand. In fact, he might be hurting a little bit for mana. He's got a handful of spells right now. I do see Big Tef at the top. We know he's got the Emperor, so the late game is locked up. It's just he's got to survive to get to that point. I think I also see Tishana's Tidebinder in Pet's hand. So that can act as, a bit of a removal spell and maybe a stifle on something like if you wanted to stifle and lock up the Guide of Souls, that could be worthwhile. But we're going to go ahead and cast the Preordain, and Pet is digging, and there is the Supreme Verdict off of the top of the library. So yeah, Pet's going to put that on top and make sure that he draws that next turn. He'll hit the land drop now, and he's opting to not cast it now, planning probably to cast the Wandering Emperor this turn and Supreme Verdict next turn, while Hunter sells a card. I don't know if that's the right play or not. I think I might have went ahead and Supreme Verdict, kept my life total high, because this is going to be a pretty potent attack as long as Hunter stacks everything correctly. So he's going to cast Ragavan off of Loris and get the double triggers off of the Guide of Souls. But for some, I already knew about the Wandering Emperor, and he just chose to attack with just the Phoenix and Loris, and targeted Loris with the counters rather than the Phoenix. So maybe you thought that the Phoenix was going to have more value in the graveyard, but he held back Delny and he held back the Guide. So maybe this is just indicative of what Hunter values on the battlefield at the moment, and he didn't value Loris, knowing that Pet has mostly exile removal and bounce, save for, well, the Supreme Verdict, which would get Loris anyway, and then the Blood Chief's Thirst found. So Hunter's going to crack the Inspiring Vantage ahead to draw a card. That might have been a bit hasty because Hunter does only have 3 mana. His deck is very light on the curve. It pretty much tops out at 3, and then he's got the Fury at the top end. But being able to double spell against a control deck is super valuable. But looks like he's going to pitch another land and to this Brotherhood's the Bitter Union. So his mana's going to be... Oh, okay, he did have another land in hand. So he does have two... he does have up to 4 lands off the smooth draw, and that is a very lonely Thalios Lieutenant, as there are no other humans on the battlefield. So it's just a 1/1, but it does have the opportunity to grow if you were to ever get another human on the battlefield. Interesting, the Phoenix, the Detective's Phoenix, can come out of the graveyard with 1 red mana and a bestow, to bestow it onto something if he does collect evidence 6, but he did not have the mana to do that here, so he potentially could have missed an attack for 3 if we could have saved 1 red mana. The Samurai token is going to get in for 2 and bring Hunter down to a very healthy 24. And here comes to Fairy as Pet's trying to start the end game here. But, you know, this is game 3, and we're getting kind of deep into it. And Hunter gained a whole lot of life this match. You know, doubling up those triggers from the Guide of Souls with Delny, plus getting an attack win with Loris, is going to put Hunter at an extremely healthy life total and going to extend this game. So that's something that Pet's got to be mindful of. He's got to kind of turn this on. And, you know, Hunter's not out of it. He's got 3 cards in hand. So any ability to clog up the board, and this is a great way to clog up the board, as the Goblin Rabble Master comes down and will make a 1/1 red goblin every turn. Just a super grindy matchup as our grindy card to help extend this game even further. You know, not the most aggressive card. Definitely better fit into a red mid-range strategy, but in this situation, it's probably exactly the type of card that Hunter needs if he's looking to continue to extend the game. Oh, and no, here comes the pressure as the Phoenix is going to get bestowed onto the Goblin Rabble Master, and he's going to be able to get an attack in, but Pet is showing 3 mana, and here comes the Rabble Master with flying and haste. And +2/+2. So the goblin becomes a dragon, or a mini dragon. And his goblin buddy is coming along as well. But Pet's going to have a think about this situation right here as to what he can do. Oh, I think I see a Vendilion Click in his hand. So that could act as a chump blocker if he decides to deploy it. I imagine the Samurai token we're just jumping from the Goblin. There's no situation there. And here comes the V-Click. Yeah, so Pet wants to take a look in Hunter's hand and see what he's got. He's got Anti and he's got a Monastery Swift Spear. Pet's got to decide if he wants Hunter to have these cards or not. Yeah, I think like any creature that Hunter deploys is going to have value here, and Pet just takes the better of the two creatures. And now we'll move on to the blocking phase. And yeah, the V-Click is going to chump block the Phoenixed up Goblin Rabble Master, and the Goblin would just slam itself into the Samurai. That falls to 10. I think Hunter's going to need Stomp. If Hunter can find Stomp, then he could. Oh, here comes Jace, Mind Sculptor, and that is going to bounce the Goblin Rabble Master. But the Phoenix is going to fall safely to the battlefield, so the pressure isn't totally off of Pet yet. What I was saying before, if Hunter can find Stomp, he could cast the Swift Spear onto the battlefield. Okay, so, but all right, Pet's not done with this turn, and he's going to flashback Lingering Souls, and the board is getting pretty big, and he'll be able to probably start cracking back. Hunter looks like he pulled a land. He did not find Stomp. We're going to go 2, 3, redeploy the Rabble Master, and I think he has the Swift Spear in hand, and it might be a Plains. It does have 1 minute open, so if he wants, yeah, okay, he's going to go ahead and crack the Bow Reunion to give the team haste. And we might be attacking just with attrition in this situation. And Pet might feel like he has got a block, and he might be right, but the cost is pretty high. The match clock is definitely ticking, and Hunter is still at 22. So we've got a whole lot of work to do for the control deck to close out the game. Yeah, here comes the team. So Pat is going to wait for. It's going to allow the. Okay, so he's flashing into Shauna's Tidebinder, allowing that Goblin to hit the battlefield, and I'm not quite sure why. Now he's going to trade a spirit token with the goblin. The Tidebinder will eat the Swift Spear. The Samurai will trade with the Rabble Master. And back on the field. I'm not sure why he didn't want to Tidebind the Rabble Master. Maybe he didn't. He wanted to make sure that Hunter would attack with the Rebel Master, but maybe just he thought that maybe if the Rebel Master was Tidebinded, he wouldn't do that. But Hunter kind of attacked anyway, which I think was a perfectly valid play. But he could have thrown, could have gotten the Phoenix off the battlefield too. But maybe that's not such a great play because Pet does need to have some sort of clock if he's going to win this game before time expires. Now, I keep alluding to the clock because it's, obviously this is a common problem for blue-white control decks. It's like these decks are slow. You've got to make your decisions quickly. You've got to, manage the board state, turn the game, and then your win condition is often very slow as well. The whole process is challenging to pilot within the time frame. So Hunter's going to take a hit from the Tishana Spinebinder, find a 19. But here we are in game 3, and from Hunter's perspective, since we're this late in the game, his odds of winning the match are, extremely small, even though Pet is down to 8. He's not out of it. He does have the bird on the battlefield, but even getting it in for turns can be much. We know he doesn't have much burn in his deck, but he does have stuff like Fury, which can close the game out if he doesn't have it. Oh, but there's Batterskull. And the Batterskull might close the door on Hunter altogether, in that he may now have no way to win this game through the Batterskull's lifelink. So it's definitely going to be an issue. And yeah, so I called time here, and it's Pet was the active player, and now we're over to Hunter in his turn 1. Looks like he top deck Skyclave Apparition. But if Hunter's plan, if he can't finish the game, maybe to force the tie, and he may already be thinking about that, and that is perfectly valid in that, this is a league, and every point that you can score in the league is going to matter towards your final placement as to whether or not you're going to get that invite to the championship round. Whenever we look at this second round here, I kind of always choose someone who went 1-0. So both of these guys are 1-0 and looking at to be 1-0-1, which would lock them in to being able to add at least 5 points to the league. You would get 3 points for each win, 1 point for a tie, just as though any other Magic Swiss event would be. But I also award 1 league point just for participation. But looking at our leaderboard, and I'll give you a glance at it here at the end of the video. Standings are tight, and at the end of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if 1 point was all the difference between 8th and 9th place. And if you're in 9th place, you don't get the invite to the final pod, to the championship pod. And that's kind of all you need to make that cutoff, just so that you can give yourself the chance for the big prizes at the end. So Pet's going to get in there with his Batterskull, the Tidebinder, and the Spirit token, and bring Hunter down to 11. Jace is going to Fate Seal Hunter, and Pet likes the card on the top of his deck. So it's going to keep it and see what it is. So it's an Onslaught Pride. Okay, so Hunter's going to cast the Onslaught Pride, play a Plains for the turn, and cast the Skyclave Apparition. This card, I don't think that Pet knew that Hunter had. Let's see if it matters. I mean, Hunter playing for the draw at this point. It is turn 3. Pet's going to get one final turn to try and push that final 11 damage across. The Batterskull is going to help, but Skyclave Apparition can't target the Batterskull. It can take either, it can take Jace, it can take, well, it could have taken Snappy or the Hidebinder, but it's going to get remand or reprieve the white remand back to Hunter's hand, and Hunter does not have enough white mana or mana period to cast it. So we've got one kitty cat versus the world. Teferi's going to get ultimated as it was able to go all the way up, and now Pet's got one final turn to try and deal 11 damage. So off of Teferi's ultimate, Pet is going to exile the Ocelot Pride and all of Hunter's white mana. And then cast Lorien Revealed to get it the remaining white mana, but after going to combat, he's going to attack for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and Hunter's going to fall to 1 life. And I think this is going to be the match. I think we're going to go to a 1-1 draw or 1-1 draw unless something very strange happens, but I think Pet was 1 damage shy. And that's going to do it. Hunter's going to draw for turn, pass, and that is the game. Oof, that was close. Pet was 1 damage away from the flawless victory, exiling all of Hunter's permanents off of as Jace tried to high five Teferi, and then Lorien Revealed exiled even more, so he got to exile 6 permanents at the end, but that's a wrap. Okay, we got 1 round left. Let's check it out. Well, look who's back. Back again. We got Ricky versus Petch in the finals. Did you think that we would have somebody else? Not this time. We got these guys back again for the 3rd time in a row. Can Ricky take down Pet finally, or will Pet's reign continue as he sets up a dynasty, or tries to, in this round? So we know Ricky's on his Naya mid-range build, and Pet's on Esper control, and Pet's going to start the game off for us here with a Preordain, immediately trying to fix his hand to be able to answer anything that Ricky can throw at him for this time. This matchup for Pet is definitely going to be way more favorable, as Ricky is going to come at him with more mid-range as opposed to Hunter's aggro build. So, of course, you know, the players don't know what each other is playing at this time. As we're going in blind, as we are every time for the first match, but Pet is going to see a Zeator's Proving Ground as well as the Chrome Mox at the battlefield. So he probably already has some sort of idea, as Ricky is setting him, or as establishing himself up as a multicolor mid-range plan with like a bit of a green and white base, which is what he's come at Pet with, 2 championship rounds in a row now. So Ricky probably recognized Pet's on another different flavor of blue. He saw Splinter Twin from him in the last round, and here Ricky is going to play his cat, the Casale Pride Mage, and hope to get an early beatdown strategy going. But the Brazen Borrower is going to take care of the Pride Mage and bounce Rick back to hand, and Pet's going to maintain a reactive tempo strategy, which is exactly what he's on. Looks like Pet also has in hand a Snapcaster Mage, the Supreme Verdict Cryptic Command. So Snappy is going to come down, get Preordain. As Pet, I think he's just looking for lands, maybe. I didn't see a whole lot of mana in his deck, and as a control player, you do need to hit all of your land drops if you're going to be able to control the board. But it looks like Pet is okay going shields down for the time being into Ricky's third turn, which he will have 4 mana on. So he's got a pretty great fixing right here, as the Chrome Mox is going to do the white mana, and this fixing is going to get even better with that Everywhere token as he plays the Overlord of the Hauntwoods. So he does also now on 4 domain, and this was a pretty strong turn 3, but it's not pressuring the battlefield. It is just fixing his mana. Ricky did leave up 1 red mana for the Lightning Bolt that he has a sense that he could put in any time, but Snapcaster Mage isn't worth it right now, as Ricky, likely any creature that he plays at this phase of the game, should be able to outclass Snappy. Pet is holding up 4 mana. He did find the Flooded Strand, so with the Triumphs in his deck, that will be able to fix him for black mana, and Pet's Esper deck will be online as well. Looks like we're going to go 2 to just replay the Casale Pride Mage, pass the turn with 3 mana up. I think I see Overlord of the Boiler Bilges. Ricky's got the Seasoned Pyromancer in his hand as well. He's not wanting to overcommit to the board right now, maybe sensing a potential board wipe, and he's not looking to play anything into Pet's counter magic either. So very disciplined play here, but Pet will take the cue and understand that he is the beatdown, and he's going to flash in the Brazen Borrower at the end of Ricky's turn, but that's going to be met quickly with a Lightning Helix, and Ricky's life gain, or he will gain 3 life off the Helix as well. Ricky is an extremely experienced control player, so I think he understands how to play against these decks as well as pilot them, and he also understands that these the way that these Esper decks or these control decks can play or have to end the game, it can be very slow. And again, like Hunter pushing the game to the end in the previous round, Ricky's going to make Pet earn it. So if Pet's just going to sit back on his mana at the end of the turn, he can he's got to make Pet act, and being able to do things at instant speed. Well, okay, so Pet just says, like, you know what, if you're going to sit back as well, then I am going to go for it, but where you can't manipulate the stack, like I can just jam things like Teferi Hero Dominaria, and that's exactly what he's doing. So now he leaves the Snapcaster Mage left to block, but Pet did have the lightning bolt to take care of Snappy. So now I think we can make a move toward Teferi, but Teferi, when it takes up, it does untap 2 mana. So I can't make out all of what's in Pet's hand, but he's not defenseless on it. But instead of going after Tef, the Kasali Prime Mage is going to go after Go Phase. But Tribal Flames will deal exactly 5 damage to Teferi. Pet has no answer. And I'm going to follow it up with the Territorial Kavu, which comes down as a 5/5. Wow. So this was very good patience from Ricky's side of the battlefield. And now he's got 2 very powerful creatures that will act as a massive threat. And the Overlord is going to come down next turn as well. So the clock is real and Pet has to act. We do know that he does have the Supreme Verdict in hand, but he may be interested in saving that for when the Overlord comes down, because I don't think that any of Pet's spot removal outside of Bounce is going to get rid of that. We do know that he has Prismatic Ending in his deck, but Prismatic Ending cannot take care of the Overlord, as the Overlord costs 6 on its own. I think. No, it actually costs 5, but it still Pet can generate that kind of color mana. So Pet's going to go a little bit more in the tank, and he has to decide if he's going to deploy the alert. But no, yeah, he is going to end up taking a bit of a hit, but he's going to get the Kavu off the battlefield, because the Kavu is going to generate some hand fixing for Ricky. And Ricky only has got 2 cards in his hand right now. He's got, like, I can't make him out, but he the card advantage is definitely going to the blue deck as we get later into the game, and it's going to make it. But this Solid Permage is going to be down. It's going to fall to 11, and here comes. Oh yeah, we know Ricky has a seasoned Pyromancer in his hand. But Ricky is going to have to kind of sniff out the board wipe if he's going to hang into this game. But we're going to go for the seasoned Pyromancer now in order to try and design. And Ricky's going to pitch a Tali. I guess he just thinks that that's going to get countered regardless. But here comes 2 fresh cards for Ricky, and Pet is just going to play Factor Fiction, probably perfectly content to use that Supreme Verdict now with this massive battlefield hanging on, or that Ricky has put in. So, Ricky probably is thinking, like, I got to make him have it. This is game 1. He's not going to play around the board wipe. If he's got the board wipe, then I'll try and rebuild after. He does have the 2 cards in his hand for that. So, but now Ricky's got to deal with this Factor Fiction piling. So he's going to consider the cards in his hand, and it looks like he's got a Settle the Wreckage and 1 unknown. The cards off of FOF looks like Jace the Mind Sculptor. I see Sleight of Hand. Yeah, okay, so we've got one pile that's Sleight of Hand, Serum Visions, Archmage's Charm, Stern Scolding, and Jace the Mind Sculptor is the other pile, and Pet is going to take the Jace the Mind Sculptor, which, these Planeswalkers is how Pet wins the game. But, I think first things first, it's got to be board wipe time, otherwise it's just dead on board if he makes any other play. Yep, and here comes the Supreme Verdict. That will clear the battlefield, and now Ricky, I think, is left with 2 removal spells in his hand. Or, well, what one Settle the Wreckage, that, but Seasoned Pyromancer is in the graveyard and it can put a couple of 1/1s on the battlefield. Looks like in Pet's hand, we know that he's got Jace. Oh, he's got Dig Through Time as well. Wow, the card advantage is just coming up, and it's going to use the full delve feature off of Dig Through Time, and he's going to look at the top 7 of his library and pick his 2 favorite cards out of that. As Ricky's got a Flame Slash, a Settle the Wreckage, and just a Flame Slash and a Settle the Wreckage in his hand. Yeah. Woof. Yeah, that is a Ricky has a definitely an uphill battle to climb if he's going to get those last 11 points of damage off of Pet. Pet gets his 2 cards off of the dig and puts the rest of the bottom of his library, and he now has a very healthy hand size. Gets an island off the top. I see a reprieve in Ricky's hand, so like if Ricky goes for any sort of big tempo play, or not a tempo, or Pat's going to get a lot of tempo if Ricky kind of goes for a big monster or whatever he can pull off the top. So being able to double spell in this kind of turn would be crucial. He does have a couple of cards, and so we don't want to settle the wreckage for that. But these 2 elementals are going to do a little bit of work and bring Pet down to 9. Yeah, he's got Flame Slash, Settle Wreckage, and Overlord of the Boiler Bilges. I don't think that's what you want to see right now with Pet 6 cards in his hand and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 untapped mana. That's, yeah, and here comes the Overlord, and I think this is just going to be some quick counter magic. Oh, Pet also has the Wandering Emperor, which would be a great play at the bottom of this turn. Yeah, and there it comes down, and he's going to immediately minus it down, make that Samurai token, and it's time to start beating down again on Pet's side. Wow. Okay, Pet is in firm control of this game now. He keeps drawing lands, so he was definitely dependent on the hand spinning, but I think, I don't know if he has any more cantrips to try and fix what he's got. He might not need him as the Emperor goes to work. It could be time to play Jace. Yeah, here comes Jace the Mind Sculptor, and Jace can certainly smooth out the hand and pitch some of those lands if need be. The Samurai is going to hit Ricky and bring him down to 19 as well. So as opposed to using the brainstorm mode, so Pet must still likes his hand, he's going to choose to Fate Seal Ricky and make sure that he can't bring down any other sort of monster after the Overlord of the Boiler Bilges. I think the other cards are unknown to Pet, but he might have just sussed out that, if the Overlord was Ricky's best play, then the other cards might be kind of dead in his hand. But the Flame Slash is going to take care of one of the Samurai tokens, and the other 2 elementals are going to come at the Wandering Emperor. The Samurai will block one of the elementals and eat it up, but the other one is going to get through, and that's going to get another creature off the board for Ricky's side as well. But we still have Jace, which is going to clearly be able to do some work on for Pet. Ricky's going a little bit of the tank, figure what he does. Oh, we're going to shock in a Temple Guard. All, yeah, in order to try and recast this Overlord. Pet has the Cryptic Command, and he's going to counter the spell, draw a card, and I mean, Ricky's life total is, okay, so now the Brainstorm is going to come off of the Jace. His hand's gonna be better. And Pet has the fetch land. Wow. So that that is gonna be huge for Pet's next handful of plays. His library is getting a little small, but being able to brainstorm then fetch to reshuffle your library is going to increase the odds of Pet drawing something even more relevant. But it's time to close out this game, and the Samurai's got a lot of work to do if he's going to keep the pressure up, or if he's going to finish this game off on Ricky's side. So the and Ricky's pretty healthy, but the 2/2, it's not nothing. Okay, so here comes an addition to the clock in the form of Mendelian Cliff during Pet's draw, or during Ricky's draw step. He's going to see that Ricky's got Settle the Wreckage and Iganjo in hand, 2 removal spells, and I'm just going to let him keep it. He's like, I would rather you have these removal spells for my beaters than putting anything relevant on the board. So I think we're going to be disciplined to not get 2 for 1 into the Settle the Wreckage, and just the Mendelian Click is going to come at Ricky in the air. See how Ricky decides to answer, and he's going to use the Settle the Wreckage now. That the curse is not going to catch anybody off guard, and Ricky will stay at a reasonably healthy 15. And he's going to have Jace Fate Seal Ricky yet again, which, this is probably one of the best uses of Jace the Mind Sculptor that I've seen. He's just taking over the game. He's taking up, and eventually Jace will threaten the ultimate if Ricky can't get in the battlefield. And yeah, with Ricky's Fate sealed, there is all he can do is pass and take another hit from the Samurai, unless he decides to now use the Iganjo or to block with that elemental token. But he's got to get this thing off the battlefield if his one creature is going to do anything. So it might be time to Iganjo. This is a big play. Ricky's going to go in the tank about it. I think he's figuring out maybe more the math behind. Okay, so Ricky is going to take the damage. That's going to continue to seal Ricky's fate with Jace, and this card is going on the bottom. So now we've got at least one card unknown to Pet in this situation, and Ricky's just playing for top deck, but he just says go, and the clock continues to tick. Pet immediately goes for the Fate Seal. Goes for the attack, and brings Ricky down to 11. Ricky's just going to continue to draw cards and try and outlast Pet here at the end. He knows he's got a Iganjo in hand. I think that Ricky's not using this life total as a resource here, because we can see Pet's strategy that he's going to use Jace's ultimate, which will exile Ricky's library, and he will shuffle his hand and it will become his new library. Okay, let me pull that up. We'll get the exact wording on that. Yeah, so the ultimate is exile all cards from target player's library, then that player shuffles his or her hand into his or her library. So Ricky's just accumulating cards, and he knows that Pet is running low on cards. So if his only chance that he sees in this game with all of his threats gone is to keep drawing, not using any spells, and then maximizing the size of his library to the point where he hopes it's larger than Pet's. And that Pet will not be able to damage his life total enough. So he's asking me for the reading right here because Ricky's library is exiled. Does that face up information? And the answer is yes. So because this is game one, this could be pretty vital information to Pet to see what he has to look out for in the next game. So he, with Ricky's library gone, Pet was able to keep Jace alive so he can keep fate sealing Ricky, so that he has enough, or so that he can, continue to really control anything that he can draw. So this game is all but a formality at this moment. We can see some additional pressure in Pet's hands. Here comes the Tishana's Tidebinder to also come down as a threat, and here's the Murderous Rider as well. So like, Ricky definitely made Pet work. Like, yeah, you had the game won probably a little while ago, but you're gonna have to finish the job 100%. He's not going to fold. He's gonna either make Pet earn it, go to game two, and maybe force this control deck to draw again. And if he does, then if this game does go to a draw, then Ricky's going to take the event. So let's find out what happens in game two. See if he can come back. Okay, so with Pet taking game one, Ricky's going to be on the play, and he's got to get up to a fast start if he's going to run this control deck over. But I'm not sure that the deck has in him. It's more geared towards this mid-range plan, which is just, and not a great matchup for him. But he's got some explosive plays. Let's see what this can do. So he's going to need a fast start. Looks like in Pet's hand, we got a sleight of hand, a counterspell. He's got the Supreme Verdict, which, if timed correctly, that could be game over. Looks like Pet's going to need a little bit of help with the mana as well. I see a Plains and the blue-black Shockland. So his mana is going to be fixed. Fast start. Ricky's got the Chrome Mox into that's going to exile a Gilded Goose for a turn one Territorial Kavu. He's just a baby with just being a 1/1, but that ability to fix his hand is going to be it. But Pet is going to shock in the Dimir Shockland, and has a Bloodchief's Thirst to take care of the Kavu right away. Ricky's going to play the Raging Ravine, and he's just white mana short of having his mana fixed as well. Pet will just play an island and say pass. Here comes the white mana for Ricky, and we're up to 4 already. But Ricky just says go, and Pet's going to cycle a Florian Reveal to find Rafine's Tower, and now he's got white mana, or access to white mana as well. So no play for Ricky on turn 4. Perhaps you recognize that Pet's holding up counterspell mana and didn't want to play into that, as every one of his cards is precious, and he needs his cards to hit the battlefield if he's going to maintain or get any sort of value to push Pet's 1-for-1 removal, whether that and interacting on the stack is Pet's best chance here. But doing nothing isn't a way to win the game either, because every time Pet hits a land drop, he's going to have the ability to both smooth out his hand and find answers to whatever he has to play. So the Rafine's Tower comes down, and Pet says go, able to hold up counterspell mana. He does have counterspell in his hand, as well as Sleight of Hand and the Supreme Verdict. One other card. It might be Vendilion Click. I'm not sure. So yeah, this is the Raging Ravine is a good answer to this. So like he can deal the damage with the Raging Ravine and not play into Pet's counter spells. As long as Ricky has that on the battlefield, I think that it can kind of push the issue and force Pet to blink first. Pet plays a land and passes the turn into Ricky, who is probably just going to deploy the same strategy. Yep, here comes the Raging Ravine. It's going to get incrementally bigger with every attack. This could be an issue for him, but Pet has the Wandering Emperor. So not only is he going to get the Ravine off the battlefield, he's also going to gain 2 life with that. So every life point is going to matter in this control matchup. And Pet's going to get up to 16. He has 4 lands on the battlefield now, and it looks like Cryptic Command in hand. He's going to value the Wandering Emperor and plus it into nothing and sleight of hand to try and fix his or smooth his hand a little bit better. He still has the counter spell in hand, so he can afford to do this, but he's developing his mana base as well, and I think he's got counter and Cryptic Command, so he can deploy whatever stack interference that he wants, suited off the situation. So Ricky is going to go for the Lightning Helix on the Wandering Emperor. If the Emperor sticks around, that is inevitability for Pet size, even with counter, on Pet side, even with counter magic. So the counter spell is going to take care of the Lightning Helix. Pet recognizes how valuable this Planeswalker is at this point in the game. Ricky says go and passes it back. Ricky might be a little threat light at the moment. Pet's going to be able to continue to develop his mana base and go 1. Nope, we're going to start off by making a Samurai token. That is the first sign of some inevitability on Pet's board if the game stays how it is. He's going to try and fix his hand a little bit further with the Serum Visions, which I think he would probably desperately like to do for himself. But he still has the mana to hold up the Cryptic Command. He also has the Supreme Verdict. So like this versatility in Pet's hand is going to be able to counter any single large threat that Ricky plays, but is also going to be able to like take care of the board if it gets a little bit more out of hand. So Ricky's going to deploy the Flicker Wisp to take care of the Samurai token, and it says go. That's going to respond with a Vendilion Click and take a look at what Ricky's got in his hands. We've got a Bloodbraid Elf, Escape to the Wilds, a Flame Slash, and a Tali. Pet's going to wisely choose the Bloodbraid Elf, as when that comes down, it can kind of have like a bit of an unpredictable path as to what the next card will be played off the top of the library. So that's going to start off with getting a +1/+1 counter to the Flicker Wisp, and says done. 1, 2, 3 for 5 mana for Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. All right, he's going to draw a card and play a land, and then untap another 2 to be able to hold up the Cryptic Command in his hand. So now Pet has these 2 very powerful Planeswalkers on the battlefield at this kind of middle stage of the game, and he says go. Ricky's got a Flame Slash for the Vendilion Click, which will be able to clear the way for an attack from the Flicker Wisp, unless Pet does something about that. Now, where he's going to point that 3 damage is a question mark here on the side, but Ricky's also a bit mana light as well. Here comes the Qasali Pride Mage with its Exalted trigger, meaning that if the Flicker Wisp attacks now, it's going to attack for 4. We're pretty late in the game. Pet's showing 2, 4, 6, 7 mana to Ricky's 4. I think he's just not able to find the lands that he needs to hit the land drops and be able to keep up with this value train that's going on. So 4 damage is going to come the way of Teferi, and Pet is going to dig through time again, and he's going to use all of his mana, some of his graveyard, because remember, he does have Snapcaster Mage to make use of some of these spells that are still in his graveyard. He's going to leave the Blood Chief Source and the counter spell at the top in case he is going to find Snapcaster Mage. So he looks in the top 7 and he finds his 2 favorites, or what it's going to be able to deal with the contents of what he knows is in Ricky's hand. He knows Ricky's got to escape to the wilds, and that might be the only other unknown since Ricky played the Flame Slash already. So Pet's not playing blind, I would say, but so yeah, Supreme Verdict is going to come down now, take care of both of those threats that, but Pet knows that Ricky has a Tali. So in Pet's mind, Ricky's got a Tali, the Escape to the Wilds, and 1 unknown. Teferi and the Wandering Emperor are going to tick up as Pet's going to value the counters on the Wandering Emperor over making the Samurai token. So a Lightning Bolt's going to come down and try to take care of Teferi. He top decks that. And let's see if Pet decides that it's worth the answer. He's holding up 5 mana at the moment, so he can use that Cryptic Command as for the countermatch to save Big Tef, but he's decided he's just going to let it go, and it's like it's going to be a huge mana investment on his side when he would probably rather just have to save that for the Atali if Ricky's going to find the mana for it. And it's closer than you'd think here with the Everflowing Chalice, but it's still only showing 1, 2, 3, 4 mana on Ricky's side of the battlefield. So I miscounted before because taking care of that Raging Red Being was bad. So Ricky's just mana locked. It has been for most of the game while Pet was able to develop his board. So unfortunately with this mana screw, it's going to be kind of getting pretty close to the point of no return here, considering we know the counter magic in his hands. And now Jason Mind Sculptors hit the board, and the Fate Sealing will commence and try and keep Ricky off of this thing. So Ricky does find another land for Escape to the Wilds. Pet has to reprieve, and he'll be able to maintain tempo. Looks like Pet did make a Samurai token on his last turn, so that can finally start dealing Ricky some damage. We're going for the Fate Seal yet again. From Pet, he's going to put a counter on the Samurai token and choose to go big rather than wide and pass the turn. So Ricky's falling to 17, and it looks like we've got some pressure to it. So Ricky's got to go for Escape for the Wilds. I think it's the only card left in the second. Pet's got the Cryptic Command, and Ricky's going to pack it in. The mana screw ended up being a little much, but Pet played great Magic, recognizing what Ricky had in his hands, and how to take control of the game, keep it, and then get those walkers on the board. The deck did exactly what it was designed to do, and Pet sequencing was amazing, which is what we've come to expect for this. And hey, that's the end of the prelim, and Pet took the champion match for the 3rd straight week. He has 3-peated. He's set up a dynasty, and Ricky fought valiantly. He's trying to come back into it and get that big win, but Pet's absolutely dominating the league. He's going to secure the top spot in the leaderboard for yet another week, and then further separate himself out from the field. It's going to be hard for anybody, including Ricky, to try to catch up to this point leader now. But that's it. That's all for this prelim. We've got 3 more to go. The season's at its halfway point. I'll leave you guys with a look at the deck lists, and I'll see you next week for prelim number 4. Hey, thanks for hanging out. Later, guys.